G'day, legends, and welcome to the Wednesday Pot Noodle on Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight are Shane, Liam, and Willie. How are you, Willie?
I'm doing all right, guys. How are you? Hope you can hear me tonight. I've been having a few technical issues over the last couple of weeks, so hope it's a bit better today.
Dominating, Willie, dominating. And how are you, Liam?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've been reading a lot of really sick jokes about that Titanic submarine over the last few days. I mean, how low will some people sink?
Oh, boo. And Shane?
Yeah, I've been... Oh, hang on.
Get stuck in the comments. It's Shane's birthday, everyone. How are you, birthday boy?
I should have known something was coming. Oh dear. Oh look, I've been good, and I've had a really good day for my birthday. Yeah, thanks to you guys, obviously, and everyone else who's reached out. Much appreciated.
Yeah, so today's podcast, we've got a few topics to discuss. I think the stuff about Brendan Rodgers and the press conferences, it's been done to death on the channel the last two nights, so we'll try to stay away from that as much as possible. So, as you can see, the name of the episode, a uniform not so simple in its style. I think that's a major talking point at the moment. So, we've all seen the home top that's coming out on Friday. I was not a fan of this season, just Gawn's home top at all for certain reasons, particularly the silver star above the logo. That just gave me the irrits, but I bought it anyway because we won a treble in it. So I think there'll be a lot of Celtic fans with this season's home kit. They won't like it. They'll complain about it, but we win some trophies in it. We play well. So if we do well in Europe, have another Lazio away game sort of thing, something like that happen, and we're wearing that top, and suddenly people will be like, oh, that top's going to be great. For me, I said last week, my part is I like it. I'll be buying it. I think it'll be one of those future classics in 20 years' time where it becomes a cult classic. But we'll go to the birthday boy. What's your thoughts on the top, Shane?
I'm starting to very, very slowly come around to it. It's definitely the growing is definitely happening. I was on last week. I was pretty negative about it, but seeing more images and more of the sort of pictures coming through from people, and obviously the fan released kind of teasers. It's almost got that kind of it's so bad it's good kind of vibe to it. I'm keen to see what it looks like when they do the proper release for it. The hoop design and style, I'm definitely starting to warm to the most. It's still the black or the use of so much black on the kit that's probably throwing me a lot. And anyone in the comments or you guys can jump in. I don't think we've ever had a home kit where black has played such a prominent role before. And I think that's probably the one thing that's still throwing me a little bit. The actual hoop design itself, I'm starting to warm to it. But look, like I said in the chat with you guys, I might just make sure I've got some make sure I've got some funds aside by Friday, just in case I get the itch to get the kit. That's where I'm going to leave it. It's slowly growing on me.
And Willie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a fan at all. I think it's horrendous, quite simply. I just think it's disgusting. I'd not seen such a poor attempt at a Celtic home top in all my time. The black, as you say, Shane, the black makes it look 10 times worse. And I think if I gave my two daughters, one's 9 and one's 7, a chance to a wee colouring competition, see which one was the best, it would still be better than that attempt. Like, it's not great for me. Like, you say it'll be a cult classic in a few years. Yeah, I'll agree with that, but it'll take about 10, 15 years for that to kick in, and I don't see the point in buying it just to throw it in the wardrobe for 10, 15 years. Like, it's a very underwhelming attempt at a Celtic top. Like.
And Liam, what's your thoughts?
So to summarise, guys, you're okay with the hoops. It's just the broad black trimming that you've got a problem with.
Hey.
Look, I said it last week. There is only so much you can do with green and white hoops. They had to try something a wee bit different. I think it's okay. I don't find it particularly offensive. I don't find it particularly impressive. It's another top for another season. I'll buy it because I always do. And like Jared said, as soon as we either scalp the Huns or get a good result in Europe in it, I think all this will very quickly go away.
Yep, 100% agree with you. I think I found one for the Australian viewers watching. I think we figured out who's designed the top this year. Adidas and Celtic must have reached out to a certain Mr. Squiggle to design it. Those who are unaware, he pencil through nose, as you can see on the screen, and would draw on his chalkboard and on bits of paper, random pictures. I think he's probably designed it. That's just my take on it. But unless anyone else has it, otherwise, it was some some sick kid, Adidas workers, sick kids come in and like, here's some crayons, go and design something, because Adidas have had a bit of a mare across the board when you look at the Arsenal top that they've had to reissue. The Man United top's got a weird pattern in it. Juventus one's got a weird pattern. We've got it's like the thing they're doing this year. So I think it's got to have been a Mr. Squiggle who's done that.
The thing about it is that just to pick up on a comment Liam made, Liam said we win a couple of trophies, we beat Rangers, and it'll be remembered and appreciated. But there's obviously a lot of momentum and enthusiasm around the return of Brendan Rodgers right now and what that's going to lead to. And people associate kits with events and seasons like that. So I think it will probably get a fairly decent run on sales and even probably a greater appreciation just because of the fact that people go, that kit, I remember that's when Brendan Rodgers returned.
So I want to ask the guys who are watching live on our YouTube channel to let us know your thoughts on the top. Is it really as bad as everyone seems to be thinking it is and saying it is online, or do you actually like it? We've got some comments here to bring up. So we've got what do we got here? RL77 was broad black winner. Andrew Galea, the black is too heavy for a home top. Then what else we got here? Andrew's like, the club should have rejected it. Mickey Moynihan, Celtic's answer to the famous Coventry 1983 away top.
Oh yeah,
JJ,
I think I know what he's talking about.
That was a brown one, was it not? Like,
Aye.
JJ's, I think it will look better once you get it in your hands. I saw a picture of some bloke and his kid wearing it on Twitter earlier today, and actually, to me, it actually looked a lot more decent, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I still like it. But then we've also got Barry Wallace. Top is the worst in my time ever. And then Sean's looking forward to spending another £70 on it. It looks pathetic. RL77, I think it'll look fine if worn with black shorts and socks.
It does have a Lisbon feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't have that Celtic feel to it at all. You would associate it with a European team in green and white, but certainly not Celtic, right?
Normally, you're walking about town and you see someone just the green and white, and that's it. You go Celtic top. If you see green, white, and black, you're like, okay, that's Sporting Lisbon. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I still like it. We'll see. I think it'll sell like hotcakes, to be honest with you, especially after a couple of wins. Do something in the Champions League, for instance, as Shane's saying, with Brendan coming in and everything. People will tie that into his return to the club. Be interesting to see how it all goes. But Eamon is like, I had to go to the opto to check my eyes. Yeah, it's legit, mate. It's not your eyes. But anyway. So, Liam, I'm going to throw to you on our next thing. We didn't want to talk bang on too much about the press conference. But something we were talking about in our group chat is Brendan Rodgers at the press conference showed some contrition towards fans with the press conference, but was it enough? Now, I know on the Tuesday crew, Stephen over there said that if Rodgers came out and straight up apologised, he was going to do this week's podcast in the nude. So for all your viewing pleasure, that's behind the paywall on our Patreon, which doesn't exist. You all avoided that, so that's a good start. But Liam here is saying that is like we saying in our group chat was it enough? So I'll throw it to you, Liam. What's your thoughts on that?
Right. Basically, as I think I said on last week's show, ahead of the conference, there were two main worries I had about Rodgers coming back. One was it's going to split the support because of how he left, and it needs to be addressed. And I was worried the board would just sweep over it as if it never happened. And the second thing was I was worried we'd go back to largely Western European-centric signing policy for new players. Now, since then, the conference happened. Rodgers acknowledged that he hurt a lot of the support and said that he looks forward to making it up to us. Now, interpret that as you will. I choose to accept that as a form of contrition and a sort of a backdoors apology. Now, people are going to disagree with that, but I think it's enough to give the guy a fair break. Then the news breaks over the weekend that we are about to sign an Australian and we might well sign a Korean as well. So clearly the Asia, Oceania, whatever you want to call it, aspect of our signing policy is still very much alive and well. So I'm happy so far. I'm happy. Both of my main concerns have been addressed in the first week that he's been in the job. So all good as far as I'm concerned.
So I'll just switch up our run sheet then, because you just touched on something that was going to be later on about the signing of Tilio and possibly Yang. So we'll throw in there and we'll get Shane's view on both. Did Rodgers show enough contrition? And then also with the signing of Tilio and possibly Yang, as you were saying, Liam, your concerns that we're going to abandon Asia and Oceania. Now, for me, I'm looking at it going, it is what it is with Rodgers. I still don't trust the guy, but as I said last week, he's the best candidate we could have got with Ange moving on. So I'll roll with it and off we go. The question off the back of Liam's comments about the recruitment is, I think it's still a really good thing that we're out in the markets in Japan, Korea, Australia, looking at Asia. Even we could look at New Zealand, which covers Oceania. So there's a whole range of players and talent down here. We've got some clubs over here, like Bayern Munich's been out here looking at a lot of our younger guys recently. Apparently they're going to sign Nestory and Kunda. They've signed a goalkeeper from Central Coast. So clubs are recognising the talent down here. And that's why I want to throw to you, Shane. But is it still vital for Celtic to stay in that market? And let us know your thoughts on the Rodgers thing as well.
Well, I'll start with the press conference stuff first, because I think Liam pretty much hit the nail on the head. And I thought he did pretty well in this press conference. I was just looking for him to basically acknowledge what had happened in the past and how he left, not to spin it, not to kind of sweep it under the rug, and he didn't do that. And, he answered the questions very well, and I agree. He's absolutely earned a break based off that press conference, and I'm sure a lot of maybe people who weren't necessarily on side with him may have sort of come around a bit more. I definitely, after that press conference, was... Not everyone, of course, but I've definitely sort of softened and warmed, and I thought he did well. In terms of the market stuff, it's absolutely crucial that we keep exploring, obviously, these different markets, which we've done under Ange. And I'm going to tie this back into the press conference, because one of the things I noted was just how complimentary Brendan was of Ange and Celtic during Ange's time here, not just from a playing perspective, but other things they've put in place behind the scenes. And I have no doubt that would include scouting and looking for players. And he was also very quick to point out that he didn't have to come in and make significant changes, that he was able to build upon the sort of foundation that Ange has set. And not only do I take that or read into that meaning around the team and maybe team structure and the way we're going to play. But I also think that means he wants to continue exploring these markets. I think he's seen the benefit. And, further to that, Brendan stated that he's continued to watch Celtic and tune in and see Celtic play when Andrew's been in charge after he left. And so he's obviously got a first-hand look at, these players coming in from these, different parts of the world and what they can contribute. So with all that put together, it's not surprising we're continuing down this path, and I think we're going to be all the better for it. So very important step that we continue this way, and those two mooted signings, which hopefully will turn into confirmed ones in the next couple of days, is a great way to reinforce that.
Over to you, Willie.
Yeah, I think with it's pleasing to see that we're going to continue to scout these markets far and wide. I mean, the days of sort of looking down your nose at unfashionable players from unfashionable leagues is a thing of the past. You can pick. There's diamonds in the rough all over the world if you prepare to look for them. And like I say, it's really pleasing to see that we're going to do that, and we're going to continue to do that rather than just picking up the phone and giving Dudu Dahan a call every pre-season just to say, what have you got for us this time? Then, as for the press conference, I said a fair bit about it last night, but to sum it up, I just kind of hope he means what he said there, that he regrets it all, and it's not just another soundbite thrown out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, as I was saying, I don't trust the guy. And when you were saying earlier, Shane, about in the hope the press conference have relaxed a few people. For me, he's always been good with the media. He's always had the gift of the gab. So for me, the proof's in the pudding. Don't talk the talk, walk the walk. That's what I want to see from him. So what I'll do is I'll bring up some comments here. So we'll start off with Andrew Galea. Telio will thrive under Kuehl, 100%. Eamon. And then we've got JJ was, yes, it was plenty of BR apologised. The media would have a field day. Celtic fans who demanded an apology are looking a tad silly now. This is for you, Liam. Australia and Asia, Liam.
In a footballing sense, yes, not in a geographical sense.
Correct on both fronts. Then Eamon was like, actually, I'm happy to have a pretty high-level manager with the continuation of signing policy, but trust. Yep. And then Michael Ross, hail, hail, all you beautiful human beings. Oh, I don't know who that's directed to. You might want to, go with Eamon or whatever and go get your eyes checked or something. We've got a few rough-looking heads on this podcast, let's be honest.
Hey, I think I am the best-looking guy in Nagano that's ever appeared on this show, so,
Anyway, let's just to make Liam feel at home, we'll chuck a train soundbite on occasionally. All right, so what we're going to do now is last thing from the press conference we want to talk about is BBC and PLZ Soccer, I think that's what they're called, or football, were both apparently banned from Brendan Rodgers' press conference. So I know Liam's got a few in the chamber ready to go on this here, so we'll leave you till last there, Liam. For me, sure. The thing that was in our group chat was, is this a warranted retaliation for poor journalism, or is it a Sevco-like overreaction? So for me, I think it's no good. I don't like the look of it. I think the optics of it are bad in terms of, okay, there was a couple of stories that came out recently that we didn't really like the looks of and that sort of stuff, but and don't agree with what was being written. But at the same time, it's it's just, I don't know, I just think it's not a good look. Like, I don't want to do, if we start doing that, then we're basically, what's next? Are we gonna start charging fan media and stuff $25,000 a season or something for, fan media and the media to come and interview our players and manager and stuff? Like, I think it's the start of a slippery slope there. So I've always liked the way Ange dealt with the media, where if he didn't like something and they said something stupid, just give him a bit of a battering. But yeah, well, that's just my take on it. But Shane, what's your thoughts?
I think you've pretty much summed up where I'm at. I didn't like it. I understand that there's probably been a couple of things written and tweeted and whatever you want to call it, that's maybe shone Celtic in a negative light upon Brendan's return. But I think this was a little bit over the top. I didn't think the ban was necessary, and I think the optics looked really bad for it as well. I think that's a really good way to describe it. Look, the media is not perfect, and I'm sure there's definitely a line that if they crossed that would warrant this kind of reaction. I don't think with what I've seen, and I assume that what I've seen is what has led to this. I don't think what I've seen warranted that kind of approach from the club. I think it comes across as a little bit petty. And the point that you made about Ange was really important. You know, I think one of the things we've done under Ange's time here is he himself played the media really well, but I think by extension the club also did, because they were able to handle things like this and easily deal with them and basically use their own words against them. Just really point out how silly some of the things they were saying were. Dismiss them, but dismiss them while they were there instead of keeping them at arm's length. And I would like that to continue, as opposed to us just saying, right, we didn't like what you put out about us, so we're not going to include you in this press conference. There's just something about that doesn't sit well with me.
We'll go to you, Willie.
Nah, I think the BBC have been pushing limits with Celtic for a little while now. Their coverage is very, very heavily favoured towards Rangers, and sometimes you just get just a sycophantic feel about it with the team that's there. You've got Stephen Thompson and Neil McCann and people like that, Billy Dodds, you know what I mean? They're all big blue noses. Part of me really hopes that Tom English turned up on the day of the press conference and he was standing outside with a bouncer going, English, English, mate, yeah, English. Is it Thomas? It could be under Thomas. They maybe put Kennedy Nitzan's name down. Is his name on the list there? Like, kind of hoping he was there, trying to bluff his way in. But yeah, I think it was. I know it does look a bit Hannish, but I think it might have been the right sort of time to make that little move and just to say, look, hang on a second here. We're aware of what you're up to, and we're watching you. Like, so, as long as it's just a one-off, just like a wee warning shot fired at them, then I'm comfortable with that. But if they were to turn around and do an outright ban, then I would say, yeah, maybe you're pushing it a bit too far there. But as a one-off, yeah, I'm not too bothered by that.
Before we go to you, Liam, if it was Tom English, like you're saying there, Willie, perfect. That would be hilarious, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all know the BBC is full of blue noses.
Yeah.
The person who was there for the press conference was Amy Canavan, who was on Axom for years. So it was an ex-Celtic podcaster who is now working with the BBC and was there for Brendan's press conference as a Celtic fan and a journalist to turn her away.
What a shame, mate.
That's what gets me a little a little cranky on the front of it. Like, I don't like the BBC. They can all jog on, but having had Amy on this podcast as a guest, done a Tim Talk with her, have been on Axon with her a few times, that sort of stuff myself. She's an unreal person, very knowledgeable, knows the sport, is a good quality journalist, and I'm disappointed for her.
Yeah. Shining light in a dark place at the moment, isn't she? I mean, that's a shame. I didn't realise it was her that was turned away. That's terrible, actually. Now I feel bad saying all that jokes and that.
Anyway, so we'll throw to you, Liam. Now, just remember two things. One, we try and not. We've got to keep the swearing and whatever at a certain level here, for certain YouTube purposes and a few other things. Number two, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Right. First of all, I'll preface by just echoing your comments about Amy. She is an outstanding journalist, was an outstanding host on Axom during her time there, and it's very, very unfortunate that she's been caught in the crossfire of a dispute between her employer and Celtic. Now, there's a few things here which I'm going to give a wee bit of background as a working journalist myself. Things that usually happen in this kind of circumstance, right? I've had people object to things I've written before or things that I've said before, and what usually happens is they will contact you and ask you to change it, or retract it, or make some sort of an apology. Case in point, I wrote an article years ago, very critical of the Chinese government for something they'd done in terms of human rights issues, and the embassy in Scotland actually emailed me and asked me to retract the story. And I said, well, no, it's all backed by evidence. And I was told I wasn't welcome at their embassy anymore. I said, well, thank you. I have no intention of visiting there anyway. But that's the sort of thing that happened. So my point is, Celtic would have been in discussions with the BBC, probably not with PLZ, because they are just professional attention seekers trying to build a YouTube channel.
Rag of a journalist.
He said on a YouTube channel, but anyway, they're provocateurs. They put out garbage on a daily basis with clickbait headlines to try and build an audience rather than producing quality content, which is how you build a sustainable audience on social media. So PLZ are an irrelevance. I actually don't think Celtic should have given them the free publicity they did by banning them. BBC, however, Tom English is, for me, in the same boat as people like Charlie Nicholas, Andy Walker, etc. Because he's from Ireland, and because he's working at the BBC, which has been proven to be quite a bigoted institution in the past. People like Archie Macpherson have actually come out and said it, that he was around people there with clearly bigoted views while he worked there. And he was one of the last great, sort of people of real integrity that worked there, unfortunately. But there's an issue there. Tom English, because he's Irish, he is overcompensating because everyone's going to assume that he's pro-Celtic because he's Irish. Because again, the West of Scotland bigotry thing, if you've any connection with Ireland, you must be a Fenian. And Tom English, I don't think is even a football man, let alone a Celtic man. But he's overcompensating. He is massively overcompensating to the point where it's just become vitriolic. And something had to be said. Clearly something was said behind the scenes by Celtic. I mean, he wrote an article a couple of weeks ago saying that Brendan Rodgers was a failure and he'll be a failure again at Celtic. Utter nonsense. Total and utter nonsense. Bile, hatred, vitriol, not journalism. And last time I checked, you could not get press accreditation for Celtic or any reputable football club unless you were an accredited journalist. When Tom English wrote that article, in my eyes, he forfeited the right to call himself a journalist. So if he's not getting in, or his employer are not getting in because of his conduct and his unwillingness to address that conduct, that's their problem. That's not Celtic's problem.
100% agree with you on that, Liam. And it's we all know Tom English is a rugby guy. That's what he came over as. He's not a football fan. He's not a Celtic fan. He's a rugby guy who came over, and now he's just telling the company line. So no surprises with him. But yeah, we'll see how it all plays out over the next few, couple of weeks and press conferences and stuff like that, and see if they get back in. But PLZ's not there. I don't care much for them. Absolute bunch of trash journalism, as you're saying there, Liam. So they can jog on. But yeah, if anyone from the BBC is going to go back there, please just let Amy back in. The rest of them, until they, I think probably it's Michael Stewart with the BBC, because he's decent.
Yeah, he has his moments too, though. Like,
yeah.
He'll criticise you when it's valid.
Yeah.
So I've got no problems with Michael Stewart at all.
But he was actually he was taken off air for criticising Rangers, wasn't he? Remember there was a big hoo-ha a while ago. He was taken off air and he was actually made to publicly apologise for something.
For telling the truth.
Aye, I think it was. I can't remember exactly what it was he said, but he was taken off the air. It was quite a spat. It was quite a rant from him on air, and then that was it. Like he was off air for a few weeks.
they talk about the unseen Fenian hand and, you know, controlling things in the background, the puppet strings, but that there is just but Michael Stewart got stood down because he actually said the truth about Rangers. Well, that sums it all up in that situation, exactly what it is. Yeah, forgot about Packy Bonner as well there, Michael. Good call as well.
Going further back, Jim Spence lost his job at the BBC for simply telling the truth about liquidation as well.
Yeah.
Liam, do you expect that what they've what Celtic have done here will actually have some sort of positive impact, or do you think it'll just lead to more, unfortunately, negative coverage?
No, I think Celtic will get what they want out of it. This might drag on for one or two more conferences, then BBC will cave in. Because as they showed in their dealings with Rangers, at a corporate level, ultimately they're cowards. They do not stand by journalistic integrity at all. They stand by whatever's going to get them most clicks. And they'll realise very quickly. I mean, the reason why they kowtowed to Rangers was because, well, we're going to lose half our audience in the west of Scotland if we don't toe the line. Because as much as I don't like them, when the Rangers fan base gets a bee in their bonnet about something, they stick with it until they get what they want. And that, in a media sense, that works for them because you have people like the BBC caving into them. You know, the whole myth about, you know, it's still the same club. The BBC have just gladly played along with that now because they know that Rangers fans just won't watch their stuff or read their content if they don't. Now, I don't think Celtic should be like that. I think we should be open to criticism and open to valid questioning of our actions where appropriate. That's what good journalism is. BBC are not practicing good journalism with Celtic at the moment. But as I said, they're cowards. They are all about the bottom line. And the bottom line is they do not want to alienate half of Glasgow. So they will fall in line eventually. They won't give us as much of a kid gloves approach as they're giving Rangers. But I don't think you'll get any more Tom English hit pieces like we got last week.
Yep, sounds about right. So I think we'll leave that topic there because Paddy Lavery was BBC banned by Celtic. Good call.
Remember the good old days we used to be able to Google BBC safe in the knowledge that it would only be talking about British television? Anyway, moving on.
I'll address this comment here quickly. Andrew Galea, a B in Sport not covering Celtic games this season. No, they're not. They've so KO, Foxtel, B in Sports, not covering it anymore. So
well, beIN is covering it. It's just that beIN is no longer part of KO or Foxtel here.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Thanks, Shane.
So beIN is still covering the games, but you have to subscribe to their specific streaming service or platform or whatever. It's no longer going to be part of the KO and Foxtel packages here, Andrew.
And that'll only get you like every second game anyway because, you know, they don't always have Celtic on. It's like one week you'll have us, the next week they'll have the Huns, and occasionally you'll get
away from home, isn't it?
Occasionally you get an Edinburgh derby. So, Andrew, reach out to us. I'll hook you up with how we watch the games. There you go. Look after our regular commenters and viewers. Now, there's been a topic here which I'm going to bring up. So, Stephen Ray. I'm more interested in what new signings we put in. Players linked so far go against Brendan Rodgers' quality over quantity comment. I don't believe there's anything in KT returning. So it's that last sentence I wanted to touch on. KT returning. There's rumours going around that he's been linked with a loan move back to Celtic next season where we'd pay half his wages. He's currently on 120 grand a season, so there's no way we're paying 60 grand a year. But we'll go through some comments here. JJ was, you're right, KT ain't happening. It's early days in the window. Main thing is to make sure that the manager and the custodians are singing from the same sheet. Eamon's like, what about the KT return exclusive? Michael Ross is saying, as I'm saying, 120k a week, injury prone, I don't want any loans. So there's a bunch of things on there. I just wanted to bring that up because it's being reported across all the red tops in particular. And there's a whole lot of clickbait articles all over the place about it too. So in the comments, let us know if Kieran Tierney was to come back to Celtic. First of all, would that be a good signing for us? Second of all, how would you feel if you were Greg Taylor? And third, is he the European quality left back that we need and we've spoken about for Champions League next season? So those are the 3 talking points. So, yeah, a week, sorry. I know I said a year. But Shane, we'll start with you.
Would I take him back? Absolutely. Do I think it'll happen? No, I think it's pretty unlikely. Not really thinking this will come to fruition. But to sort of answer the questions you posed to those in the comments, yes, definitely would take him back. He'd fit right in. I'd be quite nervous if I was Greg Taylor. I think I'm already a little bit nervous if I'm Greg, with Brendan coming in and potentially doing away with the inverted fullbacks and reverting to the fullbacks actually keeping their width and playing wider. So I'd be already a little bit nervous. But with KT potentially coming in, yes, he's going to jump ahead of Greg. And yes, I think he would be that quality left back we need for Europe. He's still a quality player. I'm pretty sure he's fallen out of favour a little bit at Arsenal, but he is still a quality player. And I think it's more than likely he's going to remain in the Premier League. I think Newcastle's potentially in for him. And obviously they're in Champions League football as well. So, that's going to be very appealing. And they're going to be a much better chance of obviously meeting his wage structure or whatever Arsenal want or so forth. But, look, I'd take him back in a heartbeat. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Liam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Shane's pretty much covered it. Outstanding player, European quality left back, no question. But wages are just on a completely different planet from what we deal with now. And there's injury concerns. Like Shane said, I do not want to go back to loan signings. I don't think that's a good idea. Ange put in place a very good structure, or rather, when Ange came in, a very good structure was put in place by the club to ensure that we get good returns on our transfers now. Tierney's an outstanding footballer, but a loan signing has no resale value. A loan signing risks upsetting the current squad by completely, blowing the wage structure to pieces. No, it doesn't feel right. And like we said, I think he's probably going to go to Newcastle or another sort of top 6 English team because he's good enough for that level. I'd like to see him go to Spain or Italy, but unfortunately, I don't think those leagues have got the money for him at the moment.
And Willie, we'll go to you.
Yeah, 60 grand a week. We'd be looking to pay him. That's probably double what Callum McGregor's on. So it's not just Greg Taylor that might be looking at him thinking, what's going on here? The captain might be sitting there thinking, hang on a second, why is he getting more than I am? And the other thing is, I can't see Arsenal loaning out a player that they might be able to recoup 30 to 35 million for. So, they're going to lose money over the season because they're going to be paying 60 grand a week. We're going to be paying 60 grand a week when they could get the money in. So I just can't see it happening at all.
Yes, I'll bring up some comments here, but there's a couple of comments here. Like, I'll start with this one from Martin. Lazy journalists, again, it's not happening on KT. Stop living in the past. Let's create a new hero. Agree with you, mate. Like, we're only talking about it because it's being spoken about in the papers. It's the off season. We've got to talk about this sort of stuff on the podcast. I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with what you're saying. So, yeah, we go from there. But we'll go through some of them. Andrew Galea, wages. That KT story is designed to hurt Celtic fans when he inevitably doesn't join Celtic. Connell was maybe, if he would accept 40k from us, not 60, that'd probably bring him closer in line to what Kelmack's on. But the talk was Kelmack was on about 30, 32, something like that. Michael Ross was KT, great player, but way too expensive. It's paper talk. It's not happening from Michael McDonald. Kaiser. Celtic should be restructuring the wage brackets, but the biggest stumbling block to sign real talent. But it's the biggest stumbling block. Would welcome KT back, but I think Greg Taylor may struggle when Brendan adapts the formation. Mickey, KT, yes. No, use that money on long-term players.
Yeah.
Eamon was the closest we'd get him. He's in with the Green Brigade again. John Clements was the only loans we should consider either look and see where the option to buy or possibly emergency loans. RL77 KT, 3 at the back could work, but it's cost prohibitive. Martin saying Greg Taylor is the left back. He can play in both. Was by far one of the best players last season. Agree. I thought he was my player of the season. Played through injuries. My only concern is he's really gone to another level of play the last 2 seasons with the inverted fullbacks. Are we going to continue that? We continue playing that when Rodgers mentioned that Emre Can played as an inverted fullback for him at Liverpool, so he has done it in the past. That gives me hope that we may keep that going. But we all know from Rodgers' first stint, he likes to play with proper fullbacks and wingers getting to the byline. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Andrew Galea, can't see Taylor being on the outer. And B, please say we're continuing our signing policy we had under Ange.
Yeah.
Bloody well hope so, as we discussed earlier. So, yeah, it's one of them. I can't see it happening. If it does happen, okay, great. But I don't want it to upset the apple cart in terms of our wage structure and the balance of the squad in terms of people going, I've been a starter for so long and, you know, guys are coming in earning more than me. Yeah, it's just not ideal, but see how it plays out.
Just on the Greg Taylor thing for a second, one of the things I noticed that Brendan mentioned in the fans press conference, which was around the comment of using the inverted fullbacks before, but he made it quite clear to one of the questions that he only foresaw at this point in time subtle changes to what Ange had implemented with the squad and playing style. So it gave me a little bit of hope, like you said, Jared, that we might continue with the inverted fullbacks. And if we do, it's absolutely Greg's spot to lose. But if we change that up, then I still think it's Greg's to lose, but I think then all of a sudden Bernabé's got a much better shot at displacing him.
Yep, 100% agree with you. So, Liam, got a topic for you here.
All right.
I'm going to bring up a comment from early on in the pod from Sean. Does Liam know how ticket sales are going for the Japan tour? That ties into our next topic, where you said in our group chat that you want to talk about the dodgy pricing regarding the Celtic versus Osaka match. So,
yeah,
throw them both to you. Over to you, mate.
Right, wee bit of background context here. When the tour was first announced, I bought tickets for me and my wife to go to the Yokohama game. And I said at the time they were too expensive. 9,500 yen was the cheapest reserve seating you could get. You know, that is double the price of a reserve seat at a normal J-League game. Now, because of the way things were going, basically, you know, we've just bought a house, we've bought a load of stuff, including this office and this computer I'm talking to you now. So I was skint last month, right? Got my bonus last week and finally said, great, I've got enough money now to go and buy the tickets for the Osaka match. So I go onto the Celtic homepage. I go to the story that says Celtic to play Gamba Osaka, and it says click this link for ticket information. Clicked it, and it was a dead link. Just did not work. Went to some security website and said, please put in your email, and I did, and then nothing happened. So it was a dead link. So I did a bit of Googling and found the Osaka versus Celtic ticket page, and it was the same company that was handling the tickets for the Yokohama game. So basically you buy the ticket online, then you go and pick it up from the local 7-Eleven convenience store. Corner shop for people watching in Scotland. The issue here is that when I went on the English link for the tickets, the cheapest ticket was 12,500 yen. So about a 30% increase on the advertised price for the Yokohama match. Now, for a bit of context, Yokohama are currently top of the league, and they are the best team in the J League. Gamba Osaka are currently fighting relegation. So it's kind of like charging you more to go and watch us play Rangers than you. Sorry, it's like charging us more to go and watch a game against St Johnstone than a game against Rangers, for that kind of context, right? It's ridiculous. But being the resourceful individual that I am, I tried searching again in Japanese, and the Japanese site had 9,500 yen tickets available for the Celtic end, and I bought 2 of them. But here's the thing, any Celtic fan who is planning to come over for the game, or who is in Japan but does not have a Japanese credit card or cannot read Japanese, is going to end up paying a 30% markup. Now, whether this is down to the fact that the yen is on its arse at the moment against the pound, or it's just an oversight, I don't know, but it's not a good look. It is not a good look that you're basically you're paying a 30% surcharge for not speaking Japanese. That's really not a good look, Celtic. It's not a good look at all. So I think, Shane, you mentioned that there were similar issues with the games in Australia before.
You saw me mucking around on my phone before. People were probably looking at what I was doing. I knew this topic was coming up, and I was trying to remember what the price comparisons for the tickets were because I'd escaped my mind. It escaped my mind on them. But just to give you a bit of context from our side, we played a local team here, and then we played obviously Everton out, still in Sydney, but at a different venue. And so for effectively the same kind of seating situation, it cost me and my mates $70 for the Sydney ticket, the game against Sydney FC, the local team, which is about, I think, £35 or something like that. And then for the Everton game, which was at a different venue, I had $20 more tacked on. So probably wasn't too similar in a sense that we got charged more to see the Premier League team. But it was similar in terms of the probably what I'd consider maybe the pricing being a little bit higher than I would have expected. And I think in a situation where one of them was a weeknight, one of them was a Sunday out in sort of the west of Sydney, which is difficult to get to at times, it would have made sense to make it a lot cheaper for both of those games and help fill the stands and get potentially new supporters across or get people more involved with the club. And I think the price point was a sticking point because you had, people flying in. They're only in Sydney. So, diehard Celts are going to fly in from all over Australia. One of them bust across from WA. And so,
Willie from New Zealand.
Willie bust across from New Zealand. That was going to cost a lot. My mates and I flew up for both games and we stayed in Sydney. So that wasn't, that cost a pretty penny. It would just make sense for these kind of games. And I think this is what you've said all along, to kind of make this more affordable, fill the stands and get more people involved with Celtic that way, as opposed to just necessarily pricing them out and trying to play on the whole emphasis of we're a big international club. We're going to make some coin out of this.
For context, Yokohama play Man City on the same day that we play Gamba Osaka. The ticket prices are exactly the same. We're not Man City, right? Bayern Munich and PSG are both playing in Japan in the next couple of weeks, and they are using the same pricing structure as well. The problem is, Celtic have obviously come to a local company, and they've said, oh, it's a foreign football team, there's the pricing structure. Yeah, but, you're talking about teams that are competing at the highest level in Europe versus a team that hasn't done anything in Europe since, about 10 years ago. So we really, as I said, you can't charge champagne prices for Buckfast,
Sorry.
That.
So what is the price? What is that 12?
Okay, you know.
You're gonna say, Willie?
I was going to say that 12,500 yen. What is that in pounds roughly?
Let me just do a quick conversion for you. I think that's about 110 quid.
That's a lot of money for a football ticket, if that's right. Like,
crap.
I could be wrong with that. Bear with me a wee second.
$200 down here. Jeez.
That is steep as.
Right,
It's
sorry.
double.
I beg your pardon. It's 70 quid.
that's still very.
still
I mean, 70 quid. You're not going to pay that for a single Champions League game, are you? You're
No.
probably 40 or 50 pounds for one of them. It's a lot of money. Like.
Well, that's double what we paid to go
Yeah.
to see Celtic in Sydney, and I
Yeah,
still thought the
it
prices
is,
were
aye.
probably a bit too on the high side. That's double. Like our, $70 here. I'm pretty sure is pretty much half, isn't it? Pound or close to. So it'd be about
Aye, it is,
35 quid, right? So you're saying it's almost double for you to go and see a game in Japan than it was for me to go and see Celtic play Sydney FC.
And bear in mind, I've got to pay probably about another 2 times that amount for my train fares to Osaka and back, and a hotel for the night. Because it's the same as like going from Glasgow down to London. That's how far away we're talking.
Essentially, the club is pricing the people out that they should be trying to attract by charging
even
prices like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're completely unaware of the fact that if you're just a football fan, there is much better stuff on offer at the same time
Yeah.
for the same price.
I'm going to the school thing here and putting my hand up just to go back to what Willie said. I don't actually think it's the club. Let's be honest.
No,
It's promoters. It's
Yeah.
greedy promoters doing it because let's look at it. They're charging the same as you said earlier, Liam, about the same for us, for Bayern, for PSG, for Man City.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, the club has the Kano Foundation, which they give tickets to kids to get bums on seats so they learn and love the club. We've got that ingrained in us. Yes, this is an opportunity to go overseas, earn some cash, spread the word, blah, 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 that sort of stuff, right? But the issue I see is, as you're saying, if you're pricing people out, we saw it in Sydney, Shane, and Willie in particular, where you play the game against Sydney, 50,000 seat stadium. How many people were there, Shane, at that game?
About 16,000.
So there you go. When we played Everton at an 80,000 seat stadium, we had 42,000 people there. Everyone at that Everton game could have fit into the stadium that we played Sydney at. And that smaller stadium has less overhead prices, which means it could have been cheaper.
Yeah.
And you could have got more people in. At the end of the day, get more people in, get more bums on seats. You're better off having someone coming in, paying the whole 20s plenty sort of thing they talk about over in Europe. If you have people coming in going $50 for a ticket instead of 70, or 70 for the Everton game instead of 95 like it was out at the other stadium at Allianz, people look at it and go, okay, if I can save $45 across 2 games, well, I might be able to take my kid to a game. Then they suddenly learn to love Celtic more than just getting it passed down through their parents. So it's just one of those things where it's a real missed opportunity for the club. But at the end of the day, I don't think the club has too much say in it. You think the promoters finding the stadiums, and this is your price point.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, though. It's outsourcing. The Celtic should be taking a much more hands-on approach with this. We shouldn't have outsourced this. They should have sent somebody over to Japan and dealt with it personally. I think the market potential here is so great that I think they deserved a wee bit more of a personal touch rather than outsourcing it to this company who just charge the same for everybody.
That's it, Celtic. Make Liam your official Japanese correspondent.
Liam, it might sound like an obvious question, but do you think the fact that we've got Kyogo, Hatate, and Maeda within Celtic and entrenched in the Celtic first 11 in the last couple of seasons, do you think that has dictated the price to be higher than what you'd expect, or you don't think that would have made a difference for the promoters this time?
Honestly,
they host their own games?
Because in Japan, people who go to see football do so because they want to. If it's not the team they support, right? So any Japanese people who go to this game are probably not going to be Celtic fans. They're going to support a Japanese team or an English team, right? But they'll go out of curiosity. Now, Barcelona played Chelsea here a couple of years ago. 3 or 4 years ago. People went to see Messi. They went to see Eden Hazard. They weren't particularly interested in the actual teams. It was to see these superstar players that they'd been watching online in the flesh. Now, Kyogo, Maeda, Hatate, they're all big names in Japan. They're all looked at as future leaders of the Japan national team. But they don't have that same star quality. Like I said, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, that horrible wee Neymar, they're all going to be playing in Japan about the same time. And they all have a far, far bigger market pool than Kyogo does, as much as I love the wee man.
Willie, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think it's pretty much been covered. I mean, it seems that the working class fan is getting priced out of it, and as you say, it's not really Celtic's fault. It's the outsourcing that's happening, so it's not good to hear, really. Yeah, I mean, you want this tour to be a massive success, and as you sort of go with the stadiums in Australia, the more full the stadium is, the better the atmosphere. The better the atmosphere, the better spectacle. So it's.
What I would say to that, Willie, sorry, just to take you up on that point, what I would say is that Yokohama and Gamba can both be depended on to bring a good sort of 15,000, 20,000 to a crowd, which will at least make it respectable.
Yeah. That'd be that. Well, I mean, you look at the Anzor, the big stadium where we played Everton. There was 42,000. It was still half empty. It's just, I mean, when you say you could put it into a stadium that was 50,000, it would have been quite a good atmosphere there. So
stadium would have been heaving.
Yeah, it would have been right.
Nissan Stadium is 72,000 capacity. Hosted the World Cup final in 2002. And
so if you
will be at best half full.
At best half full. So there you go. Right. Yeah.
Well, what can you say about it, hey?
I think we've said all we can.
And another one, unless there was a comment earlier on, would a VPN wouldn't work because Liam was saying you need a Japanese credit card to get the Japanese price.
Yeah.
So unless you got a Japanese credit card and you can read Japanese and you got a VPN for Japan, you're not going to save yourself the money. So yeah, we'll figure it out. I was going to go to the next topic here, but I'm looking at it going, running a little late here. So what we'll do is we'll bring up a couple of little comments and then we'll wrap the show up. Let Shane get back to his birthday celebrations. Quick, everyone, pile on in the comments. Send him a happy birthday. But Michael's asking Liam, what top you wearing, Liam?
Right, this is Maccabi Haifa, an Israeli team. It was a gift from a friend of mine from that part of the world who knows that I'm a Celtic fan, and he said, well, this is the closest you'll get to a Celtic top in Israel. So, it's so a couple of years ago, lovely shirt, really nice colours, and it's a good one.
And we're talking off air about your favourite ex-Celtic lone striker, Robbie Keane, getting a gig over in Israel. So I just thought, I'd throw that one in there just to see your reaction, Liam.
Robbie Keane, the bell end. Yeah, anyway. Yes.
All right, Shane, we've got a couple of ones here for you. And there you go. And again. So now we'll just go around. Final thoughts. We'll start with Willie.
Yeah, Friday, I think the fixtures are out. It'll be interesting to see when we can pencil in some time off work for days after Glasgow derbies and stuff. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that next week. This week,
Liam?
Otanjobi omedetou. Happy birthday in Japanese, Shane.
I heard something in there that sounded like Jobby, and I was
a little worried.
Otanjobi. Tana Jobi, it's your birthday. Right, anyway.
My final thought is some people are just pricks. That's pretty much it. And Shane, over to you, birthday boy. You get the final thought.
How could I finish with anything but a big thank you? Thank you to you guys, and thank you to everybody in the comments for the birthday wishes. It's very much appreciated, and it's been a great day. But thanks, everybody, for taking the time to reach out. On the hoops.
Happy birthday, mate.
We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week. So until then, thanks for tuning in again. Like us on our social media channels. Subscribe to the podcast on your podcast app and our YouTube channel. And hail, hail.
Hail, hail.